Gentiqo is a new at-home genetic testing company that was recently launched and focuses on a wider range of genetic predispositions than any other company on the market, such as 23andMe or Ancestry DNA. I was personally impressed by the sheer number of analyses undertaken by Gentiqo and jumped at the chance to try the test. This video might be a little bit long, so I will first start with the conclusion in case if you don't want to watch it until the end. To conclude, this all-in-one DNA test provided by Gentiqo is excellent. It interprets more genetic associations than any other test on the market today, and every single interpretation is easy to understand and responsibly discussed. One aspect that really stands out is that just the right amount of information is provided and at the just right level. It's a shame that the scientific references for each association weren't provided, as there were several results that I would have liked to research further. There's no doubt that this test provides greater value for money than any other currently available. I'd recommend this test to anyone interested in their health, training regimen, nutrition, skincare, or sensitivity to drugs. Now let's enter in details. The ordering process was straightforward, and a few days later I received the testing kit in an attractive branded box. The instructions were easy to follow and it was simple to collect a saliva sample. I then registered my kit online on their online interface, and it gave me the opportunity to participate in Gentiqo's research program, which I declined. I dispatched my sample back to Gentiqo's lab in New York, and 6 weeks later my results were available on my online interactive account. My results were divided into 7 sections: 5 skin reports, 1 ancestry report, 6 wellness reports, 18 nutrition reports, 16 training reports, 167 health reports, and 141 drug reports. In this video, I will talk about few of my skin, ancestry, and nutrition reports. Let's start with the skin section. This section was divided into 5 subsections: firmness and elasticity, inflammation, glycation, free radical damage, and sun damage and pigmentation. Each subsection described the science behind the genetic variations sought and their effects. My results were provided and recommendations were outlined. For firmness and elasticity, I learned that I possess a variant of the MMP1 gene. That means I experience the mid-level collagen breakdown rate and that my skin ages at the average rate. I also learned that smoking and excessive exposure to sunlight would cause my collagen breakdown rate to increase, and that I could add cream for collagen support into my cosmetic routine. I also read that white or green tea extract could strengthen collagen, and that grape seed extract could stabilize my collagen. Looking at the other subsections, the inflammation section showed that I have increased inflammation and skin sensitivity, and that I should incorporate ingredients into my skin products that protect against skin sensitivity and inflammation. The glycation section showed that I have an average glycation risk, and so I should include anti-glycation skincare into my regimen, depending on the number of lifestyle factors that Gentiqo outlined. It looks like I would benefit because I eat a lot of sugary foods. The free radical damage section showed that I have a reduced capacity to neutralize free radicals and that I would benefit from using antioxidant cream. The sun damage and pigmentation section, which are shown below, show that I have an increased risk of sun damage and might benefit from an anti-UV skincare. A diagram was contained in this section showing that my overall sun damage conclusion was 35%, but I wasn't sure what this actually meant. Now let's talk about the nutrition section. This section contained 9 subsections: carbohydrate metabolism, fat metabolism, vitamins profile, folate metabolism, lactose intolerance, gluten intolerance, testosterone optimization system, caffeine sensitivity, and hunger and appetite control. Each subsection contained a number of reports. Each report contained a summary explaining why it was important, and my results were outlined and recommendations were provided. For carbohydrates metabolism, I learned that I have below average insulin resistance, and it was recommended that carbohydrates make up to 50% of my diet. I also learned that I'm less likely to increase my insulin sensitivity through exercise. I also read that I have an increased capacity to use glycogen as an energy source during training, and that I should include a high proportion of carbohydrates in my post-workout meals and snacks. For fat metabolism, I read that I'm less sensitive to saturated fats than monounsaturated fats, and they are more likely to affect my body weight. So no more than 50% of my calories should come from monounsaturated fats, that I have a decreased risk of having high triglyceride levels in my bloodstream, and this is apparently a good thing. For my vitamins profile, summary page is shown below. The Gentiqo showed that I'm likely to suffer lower levels of vitamin B6, higher levels of vitamin A, lower levels of vitamin C, lower levels of vitamin D, lower levels of vitamin E, and higher levels of vitamin B12. For folate metabolism, I read that I'm likely to have an inefficient folate metabolism, and that I should eat foods rich in folate. For lactose intolerance, I read that I'm lactose tolerant, which is true. And for gluten intolerance, I read that I have a lower risk of gluten intolerance. I don't suffer with gluten intolerance. For testosterone optimization system, I read that I have a very high testosterone level, and that testosterone boosters used to help you work out would have a minimal effect. For caffeine sensitivity, I read that I'm a mid-level metabolizer, susceptible to increased anxiety from caffeine consumption, but I have a decreased risk of caffeine-induced sleep impairment. For hunger and appetite control, I read that I'm predisposed to having a very high appetite, which is true, and that I have a high obesity risk. The report said that I was biologically programmed to eat more, that I should make sure I exercise regularly, that high intensity exercise would help suppress my appetite after working out, and that high fat, low carb diets are less likely to work for me. This information wasn't worrying for me, as I'm currently at the lower end of my recommended BMI. Just like the 5 skin reports, the information contained in these 18 nutrition reports was fantastic. The science behind the genetic variants I possess and their effects was easy to understand, and my results were clear, and the recommendations were comprehensive. Now let's finish with the ancestry one. The first thing that greeted me on the ancestry composition page was my ancestry map. According to this, I was uninterestingly enough 100% European. The map was interactive, so I was able to zoom in on different parts by clicking on the various population percentages, which gave a little information about those regions. I found I was 65.8% British and Irish, a slightly lower percentage than I'd anticipated, since for all I knew my family was exclusively English, Irish, and Scottish. My next highest percentage was French and German, 15.9%, followed by broadly Northwestern European at the 12.8%, and Scandinavian at 5.2%. These categories were a little broad, but I hope that as Gentiqo gained more information from their members, they would become more refined. There was also an ancestry timeline, which gave an estimation of when ancestors from different populations had entered my family tree. Hovering over the different populations gave more information about when the ancestor had entered my family tree and their likely relation to me. My Scandinavian ancestor was probably a third to sixth great grandparent and was born between 1750 and 1840. For my more closely related French or German ancestors, the estimation was a bit narrower. They were probably my great grandparent or second or third great grandparent and were born between 1840 and 1900, meaning they might have lived through the First World War. To conclude, this all-in-one DNA test provided by Gentiqo is excellent. It interprets more genetic associations than any other test on the market today, and every single interpretation is easy to understand and responsibly discussed. One aspect that really stands out is that just the right amount of information is provided at the just right level. It's a shame that the scientific references for each association weren't provided, as there were several results that I would have liked to research further. There's no doubt that this test provides greater value for money than any other currently available, and I would recommend this test to anyone interested in their health, training regimen, nutrition, skincare, or sensitivity to drugs.